Box. It's time for our podcast.
It's Friday then. It's Saturday, Sunday. What?
You're listening to the Pitwall Girls podcast, hosted by Darlene and Adriana.
Right.
And that's how we kick off the podcast. In the words of Landon
It's like the
Norris.
same thing, like with the thinking about it, building
Getting
up
the
confidence.
I live for the content. Yeah, Australia, mate. And then Oscar just like, hey.
Like, yep.
He's actually
right.
like annoyed little brother.
I know, yeah.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Pitwall Girls. I'm Darlene.
I'm not.
And we're back. We didn't know that we would be back so soon. We had an off week, so obviously no race recap, but we can do a little Australian preview for you guys all today and chit-chat everyone's favorite Australians, Daniel and Oscar.
Yeah, and I had so much fun last time, so I'm so happy you brought me back.
Oh, of course. We will keep bringing you back. By the way, the friend who introduced us, she told me she listened to the podcast twice.
She told me that too.
Like, I learned so much. I'm like, you gotta go listen to an F101. And we should do an updated Formula 101 episode where we just, because the rules have changed a little bit.
Yeah. And
well, anyways, we are back into a race week and I feel like it's so exciting. I've been seeing so much Australian content. I mean, there are 2 Australian drivers on the grid and Oscar Piastri is actually from Melbourne. So that's super exciting. He grew up very close to the track. And then we have Daniel from Perth.
Yeah,
yes.
Super exciting. Both drivers kind of in different parts of their career, so kind of interesting to compare the two.
Yeah, one took one seat.
I know, yeah.
For those who don't know, Daniel has been in F1 for quite a while. He started his career with Red Bull, then made the decision to go to Renault, and then McLaren, where he was, let go and replaced by Oscar Piastri, another Australian. So McLaren does they're Australians.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this a little bit last time on the last episode, but if you, are newer to F1, if you only started watching, in the last couple of years, it's like Drive to Survive, you really haven't seen Daniel Ricciardo being, really good, but he used to be really good. Like, he's won 8 Grand Prix. He came in, third in the Drivers' Championship, twice with Red Bull. And he actually
won Monaco.
Yeah, he's won Monaco, and he also won with McLaren in 2021 at Monza, which I always forget, because,
that is, highlight of my life. I wasn't even there, but I just, I could not believe it.
Yeah, but you forget because you just think of his time at McLaren being kind of a bust, and he didn't do very well, but, yeah, he won Monza
with
in
McLaren,
2021 with McLaren, and then he won 7 other times with Red Bull, so, it's kind of he wasn't the best. It's kind of like Leclerc or something right now, right? He was really good.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how you say 8 Grand Prix? Is that even a lot of wins? It used to be a lot of wins. Now Max gets 8 wins in a row. But
comparing him to Max is a little.
Yeah, but 8 wins is pretty significant. So Daniel Ricciardo has been at the top of his game in the past. He's just not there. And I mean, I'm hoping he does well this weekend. What are you thinking it will look like for B-Carb?
Yeah, I mean, anything could happen. So last year at the Australian Grand Prix, there were 3 red flags, several DNFs, people crashing into each other, the Alpines crashing into each other, Logan Sargent crashing into, I think, one of the now V-Carbs, former AlphaTauri. So anything could happen. So
anything
maybe some chaos could be good for them.
Australia is usually not a race that is like that, but it did lend itself to a lot of action last year. So I guess we will see what happens. And you did mention there might be some rain predicted.
Yeah, people are saying maybe for Friday, which, if it's predicted for Friday, you never know what'll happen.
It might roll in, and then that gives them less time for free practice to test out tires.
Yeah, so, anything could happen, but, yeah, we'll see. It's another lower tire degradation track, which means that like the one tire can probably last a very, very long time. So there's not going to be a ton of room for strategy in terms of, when you want to pit or, going on an alternate tire strategy. Like I think everyone's pretty much going to be on the same tire strategy. So
are you thinking it'll be a one stop?
yeah, I think it's probably going to be a one stop.
Yeah.
Which means that
58 laps.
Yeah, so for anything crazy to happen, it should come from like a red flag or a yellow flag even or something, because I know it's also a hard track to overtake. So, I mean, I don't know, like sometimes Ricardo or Yuki will randomly, have a good qualifying performance and get into like Q3. So then if that happens and if they can just keep their position, maybe they'll be able to get points, right? But otherwise, it's not looking that great for that duo.
Yeah. I feel like this is a track that really suits Charles. He likes this track. Yeah. So we'll see how the Ferraris do. We'll see how Carlos does back in the car after his surgery.
Yeah, which still is crazy to me that you can like recover from appendicitis surgery and then hop back into a Formula One car just a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was
that
coming out.
G-force can't be good for your surgery recovery, but
yeah, it was coming out that he was actually looking at the data during the race and kind of passing on to the engineers what to telling Ollie what to do, how to maximize the car. So
yeah.
I can't imagine basically being on painkillers. Yeah.
Right. Well, I also heard that he might have done that a little bit to stave off the rumors that Ollie was going to take his place or anything like that, but
I can't believe those were even rumors. Like Carlos you see this poor man, he has to prove himself over and over again, and he's winning races, he's doing great, and they're saying how somebody who's not even a rookie is going to take his seat.
Yeah, like mid-season, because that doesn't make sense, because like we already know he doesn't have a seat next year at Ferrari, but yeah, anyway.
Wonder what he's plotting. Okay, how do you feel about the rumors that Sebastian Vettel might be coming back to the sport?
I was so surprised to see that. I think you even put it on the Pitwall Girls like Instagram story, like the photo with like the four. And that was the first time I even saw or knew that Vettel was being rumored to potentially come back. I don't see it happening. I feel like he's done. He's got so much other stuff going on. He's, trying to save the planet.
Save the bees. Well, save the bees. I want Vettel back because this is, another person that I'm sad I didn't get to experience his dominance IRL. Like I wish I could have been a fan when Vettel was racing. But there had been rumors kind of stirred up by Red Bull that something was being plotted with him. But I think more realistically, he would come back and not go back to Red Bull, but try out a new team like Mercedes.
Like Mercedes, yeah.
Him and George, I can see it.
Yeah.
So on the post, almost everybody voted for Vettel.
Really?
It already expired. I'm going to go into the archives to see what was the percentage.
It's between Max, Vettel, Sainz, and who was the other one?
Alonso. Yeah. Not Alonso.
I mean, I don't know what the long-term like benefit for Mercedes would be though. To bring in Vettel.
He's an icon. I think Mercedes is really looking for their next icon just because Lewis is the icon and he left them. But I think it's time
and George isn't going to be the icon.
Sadly, I don't think George is going to be the icon. George is his little, own, his signature pose. Yeah, he's his own icon. Okay, so 51% voted for Carlos at Mercedes, 24% for Vettel, 20% for Alonso, and only 5% for Maxi. I don't think that most of the followers are Maxi fans. I am a Max fan, so there's that. But surprised to see everybody voting for Vettel.
That's interesting. I mean, I would love to see Sainz there just because I feel like he deserves a break and like he deserves another shot with a good team. And if not...
They honestly all look so great.
I mean, they all look good in the black. But, if not, Mercedes, where else would Sainz go? I guess if Max were to go to Mercedes, the Red Bull seat would be open. But other than that scenario, there's no other like good team seats available for Sainz. And yeah, I would just feel bad if he had to either leave F1 or go to, V Carb or something. So
Yeah, we saw how
or
a year
Haas,
off. Yeah, a year off in the sport does not equal greatness. Like Daniel took some time off and wasn't really paying off for him.
No, yeah, I think it's really hard in doing some off-track stuff. I think it's really difficult because of the physical, experience of being in a car.
Yeah, it's completely different. Well, everything will work out. He has
Yeah.
Carlos's cousin, Carlos. I think it's so funny because when he first introduced himself on Drive to Survive, he was like, "My name is Carlos and my uncle is Carlos and I'm Carlos's cousin." And it was just like this chain reaction. And we're like, okay, we get it. You are related to Carlos, plural. But it's so funny whenever I see him on TV. But he definitely knows how to manage Carlos and get him great seats as he has, even when it's been in a pickle, because I feel like Carlos has kind of been let go from teams like at the 12th hour, whatever the saying is, like, or the 11th hour. So, yeah.
And he's been upgrading, right? Like Ferrari, so
yeah,
maybe he'll, get let go from Ferrari and upgrade to
Mercedes, Red Bull. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like the idea of him going to the stake team just yet because they are not good, and that could really shut down his confidence if he has a year where he is not even making it out of Q1.
Yeah, and that was the original what was said, right? Was that he was going to go to Audi, which is Audi was going to take over the
Sauber stake, yeah.
In 2026?
Yeah. It's another headline that's been circulating how, Ollie did so great, and it's almost a given that he's going to take one of the Haas seats, but the current team principal at Haas says that he doesn't know because he's really happy with his driver lineup. K-Mag and
I saw
Nico.
that too, and I don't know if that was just like lip service, something like you have to say to keep team morale up. Like, I don't know, even if he wanted Ollie, that he would like outwardly say it. Right now.
It's only about to be race 3. Can you imagine putting that negative pressure on your drivers already? So that's a good point you bring up.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is. Like, I feel like he did really well. There's no reason for them to keep like Hulkenberg, really.
Well, I heard Hulkenberg is going possibly to the Audi team in 2026.
Okay.
I can see that. I can see that pairing with Carlos, me just assuming Carlos will end up there.
Sainz and Hulkenberg. I just don't like that for Sainz, honestly.
I like him with like a young team driver, brings out his like inner child, just so goofy. Him and Lando, him and Charles. Okay.
We'll see what happens though. But yeah, I think this will be an interesting race going back to the Australian GP for Ferrari, just to see, if they now have both drivers back, see if they can compete for, maybe like a 2-3 finish would be pretty exciting. Although I would prefer it if we saw a McLaren on the podium, but who knows?
Well, that was my prediction from last week.
I know.
Oscar is getting podium in his home race. I am saying it. I'm affirming it.
I would be kind of bummed if he got a race win before Orlando, but a podium, fine. That's fine.
I mean, the fact that he got a sprint race win, that still guts me. But I don't think he will win. But I would be happy if he got a podium in his home race. Lando has gotten podiums at Silverstone, so let's give it to Oscar. That would be really
cool. Again, if there's like a red flag or something, I think anything could happen. Otherwise, he just needs to do really well in qualifying, which he's not like always the best in qualifying. I feel like he usually has better race performance. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not like a high tire degradation track, which is his main weakness is tire management. So
yeah.
We'll see.
He's not super far off. He had P4 last race, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
how many red flags do you think there will be this Australian race, Australian GP 2024?
I mean, I think it would be fun if there were 3 like last time, but realistically, unless it's raining, probably 0 red flags.
I'm going to go with just the one. Just the one.
One, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like 0 red flags, but like a safety car.
Okay. That's fair. That'll make it interesting. Okay, so you brought this up earlier. We're going to talk about some other headlines. So Felipe Massa, which we both don't know much about because he is before our time. He's a previous F1 driver and I believe even champion. He has once again brought up a formal complaint, or actually I think this time it's a lawsuit against the FIA because he feels like he was robbed of being World Driver Champion a certain year where Lewis Hamilton actually ended up becoming the champion that year, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all we know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's, just pretty bitter about it. So there was one race where, the claim is that there was sort of like a on purpose crash that helped the other person.
Unfair play.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I actually don't think he has won a championship, so I think that's why he was even more upset
salty.
with it.
Okay.
Because, that would have been his, championship
one and only.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys know who he is. He's always in the paddock. He is a commentator sometimes. But this isn't the first time he brings up the allegation. Like, this is something that he has been fighting for years. Like, I think this is a decade-old complaint. And I mean, props to him for not giving up. If he feels it was unjust, he should be vocal about it. But I think that the FIA hasn't even responded to the lawsuit. And, the FIA has a lot on their plate right now because their current president is also under fire for just, kind of not being very fair, honestly, just making, we've talked about this previously, how penalties are not always given out the same way and it's coming to burn them. And also the person.
And the stuff with like, the Las Vegas Grand Prix and possibly not wanting it to go on. And
you left me shocked because I did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Alonso thing from last year at Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So, I mean, I think that those are the things that bother me the most as a Formula One fan is the potential collusion, potential like interference with the outcomes of the race. Because, I mean, some of the other political stuff, it's like, kind of might not affect us. But when it's affecting the outcome of the race and the standings and they're like manipulating that, I think that's what is really bad for the sport, because if people don't have confidence that it's, legitimate race results, then people are going to be less likely to want to watch it.
Yep. And we know that viewership is going down right now. So it's something to consider. But also on the same note of the FIA, the person who filed the complaint against Christian Horner apparently had brought this complaint up to the FIA in February, and the FIA said that they had not received any complaints, so they were not getting involved. And it has since come to light that the complaint was made. It was brought up to the FIA in February, and now it is being brought up again in March because it was ignored the first time. So they just seem to be pretty good at ignoring complaints that come their way.
Yeah. Who knows what'll happen? It's not looking great for Formula One right now.
It's not looking too good, but we are.
And I feel like we also kind of forgot about the whole other thing with the Andretti team not being allowed in. And I think that in that case,
I have not forgotten. That makes me really sad.
But there's so much other stuff happened that it kind of, I feel like in another season that would have been like the main news. But so many other things happened that I think overshadows it a bit. And I think when the Red Bull stuff started coming out, or I forget what news it was that started coming out, people thought it might have been leaked intentionally at that time to kind of distract from the Andretti news.
Probably it was, just the Christian Horner stuff all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see how this ends because it's been dragging on for too long. But we'll see what the commotion is like in the paddock this weekend. Even though I feel like Australia is just always good vibes. So hopefully no like F1 drama overshadows that.
Yeah,
Speaking
and I feel
of,
like, it hasn't really overshadowed the racing too much. I don't think the drama in the past couple weeks.
no, I think the big thing is some fans, especially female fans, have not been happy with the drivers because they, gave very PR crafted answers that, what's going on with Christian is it's just like kind of a distraction, but it's not distracting them. And they kind of missed the mark to support women. So, F1 is a sport where women are not like at the forefront just yet. So this could have been an opportunity for drivers to give their opinion, their actual opinion, not a PR crafted answer. So just know lots of fans are not very happy with the way some of the drivers are handling the situation. Yep. But anyways, let's talk some other stuff. So I do love all aspects of F1, especially like what goes on off the grid. So the F1 WAGs, and I follow some of the WAG pages on Instagram, and I think these pages are ran by like very young girls. And it's just fun to see how much time they dedicate into it. But their current rumor is that Carmen and George are engaged.
Like, where did they get that from? Like, from
the girlies have evidence. So, one, Carmen moved out of London, and she says she's getting ready for this new journey in her life, and we're not entirely sure what that journey is, but it is being speculated that she's moving to Monaco. And then she did a photo shoot where she is wearing a ring on her ring finger that does look like an engagement ring.
Okay, so maybe they are engaged.
Yeah,
Wow.
but she was also wearing like 2 to 3 rings on every other finger. I mean, I'm sorry, on every other finger. So who knows? But that's what's circulating off the grid.
That's exciting.
Can you imagine a real F1 wedding? Oh my God.
Wedding. Yeah, has there been like an F1 wedding recently?
The most recent F1-esque wedding was Lance Stroll's sister got married to Scotty James, which is a Red Bull snowboarder and Daniel Ricciardo's best friend. So that was
like an F1 adjacent wedding.
Yeah, that was an F1 adjacent wedding. It was dubbed the F1 royal wedding. It was very grand, very over the top. And there was a lot. Toto attended the wedding because he's friends with her dad, with their dad. Yeah.
Fun.
So lots.
I feel like I might have
seen
photos of that actually. Now that you bring it up.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite WAGs?
Oh my gosh, I feel like my favorite WAGs are ex-WAGs. So love Isa and Charlotte, the ex-Ferrari WAGs. I do love Carmen. Her style is impeccable. I mean, Kelly, she's just beautiful. Who else is there?
I love Lily.
Of course.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, she's sometimes I don't think of her as a WAG because she's just so in her own.
Yeah, she's an athlete in her own right. She's an LPGA golfer. But yeah, I love her Instagram too. She always does these like random photo dumps that are like, and I'm sure they're like
rival Pierre's photo dumps. Yeah,
but they look super like candid and casual and random. But I love her, and like also Kika Gomez is still.
Yeah,
Pierre. Right?
Yeah. So they were posting their little journey to Australia recently. Yeah. I feel like Alex is Lily's WAG. Like Alex is a WAG. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was like an interview where they were talking about like how, they met or whatever. She's like, oh, I always like supporting like the losing teams or the teams that aren't doing well or something. Like the underdog. Funny. I forget how she phrased it, but it's funny.
How did they meet?
I have no idea.
Well, she was obviously supporting the underdogs. That's cute. Yeah. They've been together for quite a while. Yeah. Who are the other WAGs? I know there are a lot of new WAGs on the grid. I haven't done a deep dive. Yeah, I know that Lance has a girlfriend. Ocon has a new girlfriend. So I don't even know their names, but they're definitely new wags. We should cover what they do.
And
Uh,
the world of F1 wags is also, I mean, I'm sure this happens with anything, but like, there's like a Kika Gomez like related account where it's like the style of Kika Gomez, and they just like, go through all
the
the
fan
outfits she
pages.
wears. Yeah, and
Yeah.
links to like all the clothing that she wears, and they do a lot of research. So, a lot of
Yes,
time
that's
and
what I'm
effort put into these
saying.
fan pages. Yeah.
Yeah, like they are on it. They are finding the exact like matches to what they're wearing. If not, they're
Like
finding
the
great
exact
dupes.
shoe, they link to it. It's like the
Yeah.
same thing. And I'm like, how did you figure this out?
Yeah, I follow one account that has me on their close friends, and every so often she will write like, "Sorry guys, it's midterm season. I'll be off here for some time." So that's why I say I'm pretty sure it's like young girls who are
Yeah.
doing this, but yeah, their dedication is
Super
unmatched.
dedicated. But I think
We
that's why it's so fun. There's so many ways into F1, you know.
mhm.
You can just, do the fun stuff, follow all the fan accounts. There's also a lot of like F1 trolling, like meme accounts,
Oh, those
which can
I
be
love.
super funny.
I live for a
Yeah.
good meme. There is just F1 troll.
Yeah, yeah, and like a lot of those. So then obviously you can get super nerdy with it and get into the engineering and the tech side. And then,
Yeah.
I think a lot of other people just watch the races, and that's also fun. There's so many
Yeah.
different ways to get into it.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of F1 is just the content. Like Lando's like a Tumblr girly, like he knew he was going to Australia and he's like, I need to find this wall with all these hearts to do a full-on photo shoot. Did you see it?
No.
He's like, where can I find this wall? I must go to it and take all these pictures. So he found it and he went to do his photo shoot there. Very
Classic.
lover.
Does he still have his Lando JPEG Instagram account?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, he made another account called
Okay.
lando.mov and he just published his first little movie.
Movie? Oh.
Lando Move
All over
Mob.
the place.
What is it called? Oh, it's with an O. Yeah, he did a whole production. Very cinematic.
No.
Let's give it a like.
Yeah, he does a lot of random, like he has a JPEG account, he has that account, he has this like blog
Yeah, he has
or
a
a vlog,
partnership
yeah.
with PlayStation now. He has
Yeah,
Quadrant. He's
Quadrant.
a man of many talents. I love it when the drivers are vlogging. Like Carlos does his YouTube series called Don't Blink. And I am like most definitely not blinking when I'm watching that. I don't want to
Yeah.
miss a second. Charles has a great videographer. His aesthetic for even his Instagram post is next level, but when he does a vlog, it's just chef's kiss.
And Charles just has a budding music career as well.
Oh yeah, he does. He has so many songs on Spotify right now. I need to get him like singing. I want to hear his voice. Like I don't want just the piano melody. I
The
actually want
sad
him singing.
piano track.
Yeah. And me being an F1 Swiftie, I don't know if you're a Taylor Swift fan.
I don't think I don't think the Swifties would accept me. I don't think I've reached their level of fandom, but like I like
I'm a
Taylor
Swiftie
Swift,
and I accept you. So welcome. But like the F1 Swifties are so real. Sometimes I'll comment that on posts and get like 500 likes. Just like I'm like, yes, the F1 Swifties are reporting for
That's
duty.
so you remember when there was that funny rumor that Alonso and like Taylor Swift were dating or something?
Yeah, and that sounded so crazy. And then she ended up dating like an actual athlete. I mean, Alonso is an athlete too, but I say like F1 almost claimed Taylor. Like we almost had her be one of us. Can you imagine like all the hype that football got because of Taylor Swift if she would have actually been in F1? Yeah,
Yeah,
but
has she been in the paddock yet this year? I know people were saying that she might.
this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I don't know if she has, but I'm sure that maybe she'll tend to race with Travis, but I don't know because they're doing so bad. Like I can't see Taylor going to support a losing team because everything she does is about winning and being great.
Right.
So maybe they actually need her to come in there and she'll just, there'll be some Swifty magic to make that car go faster. But Taylor has actually performed at Coda in 2016.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So this
Yeah,
is
it's because Wait, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've talked about this on the pod before, but since you don't know, I'm going to share with you. Before I even knew what F1 was, like I didn't even know what it was. I saw Taylor Swift was having her only concert of the entire year. And I texted my best friend. I'm like, she's performing at this car thing. Like, let's just buy the ticket. We don't have to go see the cars. Like, we can just go to the concert part of it. We didn't end up going, but I do think if I would have made it out there, I would have been an F1 fan since back then. So like my whole life, I've been like being pushed to be an F1 fan. For my graduation trip, I went to Monaco and it was the week after the race. And I was just standing in the middle of the streets. I'm like, why is everything painted this way? Why are there like barricades all over? So close, but finally happened with Drive to Survive. Oh my God, my chair just went down.
Oh no. But yeah, people forget that the Grand Prix are like huge events. Like when I went to Coda for the US Grand Prix in 2022, I think the headliners were like Green Day and Ed Sheeran.
Wow.
And I was so wiped up by that point that I don't even think I stayed. Like I don't think I got the concert ticket part of the ticket. Like I just had the race watching part. But yeah, it's just like and I feel like the people who were attending the concert were not necessarily there for F1. They were just going for the concert. It's kind of interesting.
You see?
Yeah.
You see, and maybe they saw the race and now they're F1 fans. So
yeah,
that all works. Okay, what else? What else is there left to cover?
I mean, I feel like, it's been a slower week, and the Australian lead up to the Australian Grand Prix is just starting, so we don't have like a ton of news yet to cover, but because it's Suzuka, which is obviously my favorite.
A great
I'm Japanese.
Race. Yeah.
I'm from Japan. It's always it'll be interesting because they moved it from October to April this year.
Oh, how the temperature affects.
Yeah, and they're trying to make it a little bit more regional. So I know F1, has been getting a little bit of flack because they do have a net zero goal. But people have been complaining that they haven't been doing enough to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions footprint, which is really relevant to like what I actually do for my 9 to 5 job. I work in sustainability. So I'm dealing with like companies' targets all the time. But one thing that they're trying to do to reduce their emissions footprint right now is to make the calendar a little bit more regional, so they're not flying like between Asia and Europe and the US like back and forth. So that's why we've had Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, now Australia, and then sticking on that side of the world. Going to Japan, and then I think it's China or China after that.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yeah, they're trying to be a little bit more regional, so they're not flopping back and forth with it, which I think is good. Yeah. I think it's like a little bit besides the point, though, if like there's too many weeks in between, and then the drivers end up going home to Europe or something anyway.
Yeah,
in
and
between,
not just
and then
the drivers, but all the teams.
Everyone.
Yeah. So many people involved.
But it's really the logistics part, which is the biggest part of their greenhouse gas footprint. Is the huge boxes they have to ship with all the car parts and everything.
They ship
the other thing they were doing. Yeah, they were also trying to
track.
Yeah, they were also trying to reduce the number of tires you can bring to a race weekend, right? And like trying to, say you can only use so many tires, and that was in part because the number of tires you bring is like a huge amount of weight that you're transporting across the water. So
across the seas. The calendar is definitely getting better. It's making a little bit more sense, but not a whole lot, because they're still coming to Miami, and then I think that they're going back to Europe, and then they come back again to Canada. So it's not perfect yet, but I'm sure that they will get there.
And I wonder what Suzuka is like in April. Knowing Japan, April and May. Well, May tends to be really nice. Okay. April can kind of be like go either way. So we'll see. Usually
does it rain?
The October race. It rains a lot in June.
Okay.
I can't remember if it rains in April. I mean, it rains a little bit, but not as bad. But I think October is usually like typhoon season whenever they were in Japan. So that was kind of why it was always such a wet, crazy race. But that also made it. I mean, honestly, Suzuka, it was like race for so long, and like
how do you feel about when the rain causes the start the race start to be delayed, because I feel like they should just go. They have wet tires for a reason. Instead of stopping the race, just let them race. Let them do their thing in the wet.
I mean, obviously there are limits, right? If it's so crazy, then I get it. But yeah,
visibility.
Like they barely ever use wet tires anymore. They only ever race when it's, you know, not so wet that you need the wets, so you can use the inters. So if, like, what's even the point of having wet tires if you're not using them?
Exactly.
But I have heard that part of the reason why it's been more dangerous and they're not going when it's raining is because of the way that the cars are now, and because there's so much downforce and everyone's cars are super low to the ground. It's causing a lot of spray, and that's what's making it difficult. And so I think previously,
so it's a visibility issue.
Yeah, I think previously with the way the cars were, they still. So I think we've seen some like kind of dangerous things happen recently with wets, but I mean, I think it is always fun if it's safe. Strategy aspect of like who goes on the inters or wets first. Like, you know, do they stay on the medium tire and try it out, and then you see someone like slip out and that was the wrong decision. They should have. I mean, all that stuff is fun and helps mix up the grid.
This is an interesting race.
Although I would say that whenever that happens recently, it feels like Red Bull always makes the right decision. You know,
I mean, they have a great strategist. I mean,
they're always
is so great.
So it doesn't even matter. Like, the rest of the grid gets mixed up, but like they're not affected.
Just
anyway.
do what Red Bull does. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm super excited. F1 is back. I actually could have done without the break. It feels a little longer. The race was last Saturday.
I know. Yeah, I haven't looked at the calendar like in depth yet. I don't remember like how many back-to-backs there are and how many breaks, but I think there are more back-to-backs this year, which is super fun as a fan, but I think really hard as, you know, a driver, even like an engineer. I know I've heard a lot about work-life balance of the engineers, and it's hard to, like, you know,
does that retention exist in F1? Stuff. Yeah, I don't think so.
It's tough. So, and the calendar's longer now. There's more races, so I'm sure it's tough. But I'm super excited. And then, is it a back-to-back right after Australia?
No, there is a 1 weekend break. I do know that the whole year it ends in a triple header.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have the Australian GP, and maybe we can come up with something fun to talk about in between, and then
definitely we could do one of the deep dives of the teams. Oh, you know what we should do? I know what we should do. We should do the new sprint race, because China is a sprint race, and then Miami is also a sprint race. So we will go over that because there were some changes to the sprint race.
All right.
Exciting.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, time to sign off. Well, thank you everybody for listening to us chit-chat. We just love talking F1, so glad we got to do that. Please leave us a rating, a review on Spotify or Apple, and if you're watching on YouTube, do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and send to your friends. And join us on Discord and the F1 Fantasy League. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.